Hello friends, in this session we are going to discuss about problem statement and review of literature. So, these are the first two steps in the academic research process or research process. So, what is problem? So, if you remember in the first class itself I told that the most important part or aspect of the scientific approach is the problem statement or formulating the problem. What the problem is? So, problem is an interrogative statement that asks what relation exists between two or more variables. The empirical counterpart of the problem is hypothesis, which is deduced from the problem. So, hypothesis again it is the relation between or conjectural statement of relation between two or more variables. So, in the some later session we will discuss in detail about the hypothesis. Today we will focus on the problem and problem state. So, what will be the example of the problem, like whether on the job training decrease the error rate of the employee, whether increase in the women's participation decrease the farmer distress. So, these are example of the problem again, which is an interrogative statement that asks what relation exists between two or more variables. What is problem statement then? So, problem statement is the contextualization of the problem in the current research scenario. How it is being contextualized? By looking into the what gap exists into the present knowledge, what gap exists or what problem exists, what the findings in this particular gap, how this particular problem is relevant to the research area. So, those basically included into the problem statement. So, problem statement is much broader, which add to the contextualization of the problem in the present research scenario. So, what are the criteria for a good problem? So, there are three criteria that the problem should express a relation between two or more variables. Secondly, the problem can be expressed clearly and unambiguously in question form. And thirdly, the problem should be such that it have possibility for the empirical testing. So, if you remember the metaphysical explanation I discussed about, the problem should not be a type of metaphysical explanation. It should not involve the phenomena which cannot be observed or tested, or at least the method for procedure for testing cannot be developed. So, in this relation there are another three criteria which was popularized by the one social scientist Webb for writing the problem statement. So, he also reject or he also delete a number of other criteria which may be considered for the problem statement. Okay. So, the link for that research paper is given in the further learning section at the end of this particular session. So, what are these Webb criteria? Those are basic knowledge, dissatisfaction and generality. Knowledge mean it is the how much knowledge the researcher have about the problem. Second, dissatisfaction, that is skepticism, going against the tide, and third one is that the generalizability. What is the application of that particular problem, whether that problem or solving that problem which aid to the broader population. So, these three if satisfied, okay, then that problem should be selected. So, now combining these two, so there are the other but less important criteria for the selecting or formulating problem. The first one is that whether the problem is significant one, means whether there are enough number of variables which can be looked into. Second, is the problem relatively new one, that means whether the problem is a novel. Okay. This is for avoiding the unnecessary repetition or unnecessary expenses in terms of the money and time. Though I should tell one thing, that it is not always possible to have a new problem. Sometimes it is required to look into the problem, okay, to re-verify it, to confirm certain already known fact. Okay, so in that cases the problem may be repetitive one also. Third important part is that the problem of feasibility for particular researcher. So, the researcher must have the competency to study the problem, he must be enthusiastic and interested in that particular solving that problem. He also must take into consideration the financial implication, because carrying out an experiment, carrying out an research is required the monetary support, okay, whether he has that particular things or can be collected, okay, and the time requirement. Most of the cases when the research is being carried out for a part of the project or the part of the academic activity, okay, so there is a time boundation whether the problem can be studied within the given time frame. So, in this context I want to say one particular things about the mostly about academic research we used to say. A good research should involve kharcha, parcha and charcha. What is kharcha? That means expenses or expenditure in terms of money and time. Parcha means the result of that particular finding of the problem of the research, okay, that should be published for the wider view of the scientist as well scientific community as well as the common people. And charcha means that problem should be discussed in the different seminar and the conferences, okay. So, then only a particular research becomes successful one. So, and the last important criteria is that whether that problem can be solved by the research, okay, whether there is an implication for solving that problem through the process of the research or not. So, these things also must be taken into consideration by the researcher when he select or when he formulate the research problem. So, what are the statement or what are the components of the statement of problem? So, as I already told that statement of problem is the broader version of the problem, that means it is the contextualization of the problem in the given research proposal or given research context. Okay. So, the statement of problem generally have a number of component, like it should have the research problem, which is again the it is an interrogative statement about the relation between the variables. Okay. So, it is about the issue of concern, problem situation, difficult situation. Okay. It should involve the evidence for the issues, means it critically look into the what knowledge available about around that particular problem. Okay. The facts, statistical facts, literature, experiences, it should be supported by that. Deficiencies, again based on these particular facts, okay, what are the missing, what is not known in that around that problem area. So, that is also the part of the problem statement. Okay. Intent of the study, based on all these facts, okay, what is the purpose of the study. So, these are the important part of the problem statement. So, when the researcher, any particular student, okay, as a part of his research, okay, he formulated a problem statement, so he should keep into the mind. So, it generally contain or it generally have 4 important component, that is the research this problem, evidence for the particular issues, deficiencies in that particular area, and it come to the intent of the study, which generally lead to the title and objective of the study. So, problem statement as I told, okay, it generally directly followed by the objective, which is again the later stages reduced to the hypothesis. Okay. So, what is the link between this problem and the objective or statement of the problem and the objective? That is the deficiency, which is generally formulated based on the available facts or available knowledge. That means what is missing, what is not known, what do we need to know, and the intent of the study, what is the purpose. So, these 2 particular things generally lead to the formulation of the research objective. So, now once you formulate a particular problem, that is the most important step in the scientific inquiry, it generally followed by the review of literature. Now, this relation between the review of literature and problem formulation is sometimes vice versa, means the review of literature is required at the problem formulation stage also, and it required after the problem formulation also for the better understanding about or for formulating the how to carry out or how to solve that problem, or how you are going to test that particular hypothesis you formed, the relation between that particular variable which are the part of the problem, how you are going to test that. Okay. So, for developing those methods for better insight into the problem, review of literature is important. Okay. Not only in this stage, it also important when you formulate the problem also. So, what the review of literature is? So, review of literature is nothing but the extensive collection of the past studies which have been done in the field of the problem or the investigation. So, again if you remember, okay, I told in the characteristic of the scientific research that cumulative nature of the knowledge. That means, most of the researcher does not start from the scratch, he generally build upon the existing information or existing knowledge. So, that is the important, so that is the review of literature part. So, 3 things or 3 R should be remembered by the learners when they are doing this particular activity, that the review of literature must be relevant. Relevant means it must be related to the problem statement or problem of your study. Secondly, it must be reliable, that means it should be collected from the trustworthy sources, and it should be recent. Recent means it should not be too older, the findings should not be too older in nature. So, how much recent? Okay. So, the general rule is that in case of the medical science and technology, okay, it should not be more than older more than 5 years. So, given the faster rate of the generation of the information or faster rate of the evolving around this particular field, okay, evolution in this particular field, okay. So, a particular knowledge or a particular technology become obsolete very quickly. So, in the other discipline where the time is not that much important, okay, it should be 10 year up to is acceptable. In the social science research in general, we accept the review which are up to the 10 years old. And what should be the number or what should be the amount of the review of literature in your particular dissertation or thesis, okay, if you are carrying out a research in as a part of a academic activity. Okay. General rules, again rule of the thumb is that it should be usually about 25% of the entire dissertation. Okay. This is for the most of the cases the student ask that what should be the size of this particular review of literature. Okay. So, scientifically the review of literature should be such that it aids on the objective of the review of literature or better formulation of the better insight into the problem. It should be such that it not only support the research process to be followed, it also support the findings or critical analysis of your findings. Now, in the review of literature, there are 2 broader type of review of literature. One we call the conceptual literature, another we call the empirical literature. Conceptual literature is simply, it is based on the knowledge of the expert who are expert in this particular field. So, during that formulation of any particular study, you generally talk with a number of experts in the field to get certain insight into the problem. So, that is the conceptual part of this review of literature. Now, empirical literature is the which is already published in that particular field. Okay. So, that research paper and all those things. Now, this review can be collected from the direct sources or indirect sources also. What are the direct sources? Like thesis, journal, books, monograph, reports, these are the direct sources. What are the indirect sources? Like abstract, bibliography, dictionary, indices, etc. These are the indirect sources. Now, in these stages, most of the students who are new to this research methodology, okay, so they face a problem with these particular terms. What is thesis? What is journal? Okay, the books is commonly known. What is monographs? Okay, what is bibliographies? All these things. So, for the purpose of their understanding, okay, so I included some slide about for clarifying on these particular terms, okay, which is known as the scientific literature. Before we go to this scientific literature, so there is one approach we called it as the IMRAD approach, which is important for reviewing the literature when you are in case of when you are writing a scientific paper based on your research. Okay. So, what scientific paper or research paper is? Okay, we will come to that part also. Okay, IMRAD basically stand for the introduction, method, result and discussion. Okay. So, in the introduction part of your scientific paper, okay, so that is why you do the study section. Okay. Here the review of literature you basically or the reviews you collected, okay, that should be related to the gaps in this current research. Why you take this particular research? What is the justification for selecting this research? In the method part of your scientific paper, that is how did you do the study section, the reviews you collected, okay, that should be related to the research design, study design, the population, sampling strategy, intervention, etc. Next is the result part, that is what did you find section. Okay. So, in this particular section the reviews should be related to the data collection and the key findings. And the last and most important part of the scientific review writing in case of the scientific paper is the discussion part. Okay. So, that is the interpretation of the result section. So, here the reviews should put or should analyze the findings of the research in the greater context. It should contrast with the existing knowledges, how it is different, if it is different, why it is different. Okay. So, that is the discussion or objective of putting the review of literature in the discussion section. So, these things should be kept into the mind by the researcher when they are reviewing the literature for writing a research paper. Now, as I was telling, okay, that students generally face problem about the different scientific literature. We all likely most of the cases we talk about research paper, review paper, popular article. So, what this particular terms means? Okay. So, for review of literature, these things or this particular the explanation of this particular method, these articles or research publication, I included some slide for that purpose. So, the scientific publication, there are a number of types or different types of scientific publication are there. The one major type is the journal article. Now, journal article, those are basically, that may be short or lengthy paper, okay, that published in the periodicals which is known as journals, or scientific periodicals which is known as journals on a regular interval. Now, this paper or this journal articles may be broadly two types. One we call the research paper or primary sources paper based on the primary information, second we call the review paper. Now, these primary sources or based on the primary paper based on the or literature based on the primary information, it may be research paper, okay, which is first hand account of the research, not only account what has been done, but why it is, what is the result, why it is so. So, that is the critical analysis of the result that include into the research paper. So, there are other two type, one we call the research note, another we call the short communication. So, research note are the small, often it is the description of the preliminary studies. Okay. It may involve the description of the certain some peculiar thing happened or certain unexplained observation. Okay. And it is a short report with few illustration. Okay. And another important type of research publication based on the primary sources is that short communication. So, short communication, again it is again a short paper consisting of the new idea or preliminary findings or preliminary report about the findings, and generally it contains 2000 up to 2000 words. So, generally at the time of publication of the or at the time of the delivering the result, after the finalization of the results, okay, before publication of the full length paper or research paper, the scholars generally publish short communication. So, there are another important source, that is the review article. So, review article, it summarize the whatever being done, whatever is known in this particular scientific or the subject area. Okay. So, one special type of review is the systematic review, okay, which use the all previous knowledge or systematically studied the all previous research on a particular topic to identify or which systematically evaluate all the evidence based on the research paper, and the purpose is to find out certain conclusion based on all this information. It sometimes involved a procedure which we call the meta-analysis. Okay. So, that is the comparing the different research paper, research study on the based on statistical facts. So, there is another major group of the scientific publication that we know, that is known as a conference paper. So, conference seminar, these are the gatherings of the intellectual, okay, who deliberate on a single topic or on the different area of a particular subject. Okay. Whatever being done or research being carried out, what is the current trend and what already done, what is the result. Okay. So, all these things are presented and critically discussed among the scholar in that particular field in the form of the conference or seminar. Now, the findings or the presentation of this conference or seminar sometimes, okay, these are published in a number of form, like it may be published as a book, it may be published as a special issue of the journal. Okay. So, these are the conference paper. There are one type of scientific publication which is known as a abstract, which is consisting of list of publication on the subject and provide full annotated bibliographical information together with substantive summary. So, there are academic dissertation, these consist of the report of the research which is carried out as a part of the any particular academic degree. Okay. So, in this context one term is often used by the scholars or by the students, that is manuscript. Now, in actuality manuscript is this academic dissertation which was written by hand. Okay. So, it was before the invention of the printing press. So, though we sometimes loosely termed our research paper or the review paper as a manuscript, a general term used, okay, but the manuscript actually means a written piece of the paper. Okay. So, apart from that there are certain minor sources, those are minor type of publication, that is annual report, that is the statement of the work being done by a particular organization. There are bibliography. So, bibliography it consists of the list of books, paper, documents, publication on a particular subject area or related subject. There are book review, that is the critical analysis of a particular book. There are editorial, those are opinion pieces generally written by the journal editors on, or those are it may be the beliefs or policy guideline also. Okay. So, there are technical note. So, technical note it is a short article that basically give brief description of a specific development in a particular technique or procedure, or it generally describe the modification in the existing technique. So, there are books and textbook. Book you already know, okay, it are the specialized texts which offer an overview for studies on a particular subject. Okay. Textbook are the books which are used for studying under a particular degree. Okay. And there are handbook. Handbook is consisting of concise reference work, okay, with facts and information, okay, for which are basically used for the ready references. Okay. So, all the information in a particular field or all the necessary information in a particular field, okay, are generally included into the handbook, and that is it is not for continuous reading, okay, it is mostly used for the ready references. So, another important group of the scientific publication is the popular article. So, now till now the scientific publication we are talking about, those are meant for the world of the scholar, okay, most of the scientific scholars. Now, for the people, so science is not only the scholars or scientists they are interested in the scientific work. Okay. Sometimes the ultimate purpose of the science is to betterment of the mankind or well-being of the mankind. Okay. So, the scientific information are important for your general people also. So, when any particular information or the paper or the scientific paper that is written for your non-technical people or non-professional people or general people, okay, it is known as a popular article, okay, or popular work. Okay, it generally published in the magazine. These are targeted towards the wider population, and that is why written in the much more simpler languages. And in the due to the invent of the ICT, so there are blog. Okay, so blog are again it is the online platform for putting the conversation or putting the different view of the conversation. Okay. Now, for writing a good review of literature, the students keep into the mind the following few points. Okay. That firstly, the review of literature must demonstrate the current knowledge and identify. It should not be just an collection of the facts or information. Okay. It should be critically look into this information to find the gap, or critically apprise or find the contrast between the available information. If there is a gap, so why that is a gap? Whether there is any particular literature available, what gap is there. Okay. So, these things should be kept into the mind by the student when they are carrying out the review of literature. Okay. And it should be evidence based also. So, it should use a number of peer reviewed and original research article, research facts, okay, and finding the similarities and discrepancy between the available knowledge, met and unmet need. So, the researcher must be very careful about the authenticity of the source also, because the invent of the ICT, okay, so everyone can come out with an information. Okay. So, they should know that which source to be looked into to find a reliable review. Okay. And the review of literature should actually aid to the refinement of the variables and procedure, and or better it should aid to the betterment of the understanding of the researcher. It should aid to the reducing the bias, that is increasing the objectivity of the research process. Okay. So, what are the steps involved in the carrying out the review of literature or literature review? Okay. So, some of the steps are mechanical or can be carried out in a in a mechanical way. Okay, so there are number of software available also, we will talk about those things. Okay, so generally the reviewing the literature, it started with the selection of the topic, that is the problem area you are talking about. Okay, and it generally followed with the identifying the keywords. So findings the correct keywords, especially at the time of the ICT based, or as nowadays most of the review of literature, okay, is being carried out by using the different search engine. Earlier it is being done in the library. Okay, scholar used to visit the library, looking into the each of the journal or each of the scientific publication, that which particular to find out that the article which will be particularly important for the current research. But now you can quickly find out any information about in that particular area by putting just the keyword, but you should put the correct keyword to find the correct source. Okay, and so this next step, that is the identification of the information sources, it followed directly with the when you put the correct password. Okay, now next one is that develop the argument. So what is your objective for the review of literature? What you want to find out? What are the broader area where you want to look into the supporting facts, and after that it followed with the survey of literature. Now this stage, the surveying the literature, that can be achieved in a mechanical way. A number of software are available which can give you the, or also the search engine can quickly give you a number of sources which can be used for the your particular review of literature concerned to your topic. Okay, and once you find the relevant literature, then generally you have to critically evaluate or analyze those particular literature, and you have to synthesize, okay, that what is the gap you have to deduce, okay, that what is the supporting area or supporting facts of your problem, what are the discrepancy in that problem, okay, what are the method used, what are the lacuna in those problem. Okay, and it generally or the one another mechanical step, that is the writing those review of literature or listing those, registering those review of literature in the your Word file or in the writing of your copies. Okay, so these are the overall 4 steps which are involved. Okay, most important step in which is the identification of the keywords, okay, and then the critically analyze and evaluate and synthesize the gaps, discrepancy and all those things and supporting information from those particular activity. So the 5C the students must keep into the mind when writing the review of literature. What are these 5C? That is, the first one is the cite. The primary focus on the literature is that your research problem. Okay. Second is compare. Don't forget to compare various argument, theories, methodologies and findings which you find in the literature. Okay. What do you have to be very careful, or you have to give attention that about what the authors agrees on. Okay. What are the similarity in approaches, what are the difference in the approaches, and it followed with the contrast. Okay. So that the various argument, themes, methodologies, approaches and controversies expressed in the literature, okay, so that you have to find out. Okay. So what are the major areas of disagreement or controversy or the debate or the gap. Okay. So that is the third step. Okay. That is cite, compare, contrast, critique the literature. That means you develop argument, okay, which is more persuasive, or which approach or methodologies is reliable according to you by studying all this information. And last is that somehow connect those facts you collected with your problem, connect those problem with these facts with your objective. So that is the connecting the literature you find through the review process with your actual problem statement or your actual research process. Okay. So those 5C you have to, or any student have to keep into the mind when you are carrying out the reviewing of the literature process. In the finding out in the process of identifying reviews, okay, there are 4 broader approach. Okay. So what are these approach? Okay. So you can carry out or you can find the review from the bibliographic databases. So many reputed journal, okay, they maintain their database about what the author, what is the organization, what are the abstract or main findings, what are the citation used in or what are those people or from where this particular researcher whose review or who studies the particular researcher used for his own work. Okay, so those things are basically maintained by the different reputed journal in the database. Now there are a number of online free software tool available, okay, which can be utilized, okay, to study those particular database and to find out the sources which may be useful for the purpose of your study. Example of the such software is the the VosBuer is there. It is most commonly used software. There is BiblioSigny, that is R based software. There is SciTool, there are Publish or Perish. So there are a number of freely available research tool that not only identify the relevant sources, but also they can give you the trend in the research, they can give you the trend into citation, they can give you the connection between the researcher who are studying those particular research. So those things are available. Okay. In the next session we will look into or in certain later session we will look into that how to use those particular one software, okay, mostly the VosBuer, to find out, or what you can find out by using this VosBuer software by analyzing the bibliometric or bibliographic sources for the purpose of the reviewing the literature. So there are another two important or major approach which is known as the ancestry approach and descendancy approach. So ancestry approach means any particular paper or the scientific publication, okay, which or published scientific publication, that for contrasting their result or for putting their result or for analyzing their result, they used to look into the what already been done in that particular field, and the information from those particular already carried out work, okay, information about those generally put into the reference section of any scientific publication. Okay. So to find out what are the reviews or what are the work which is already being done, you can look into those this particular information which are present into the research paper. Descendancy approach means, now once you study, once you publish a particular paper, okay, so there will be a number of other researchers who will use those particular your paper, okay, for the purpose of your work. From the database or online database like Google Scholar, okay, you can find out who are the researcher who used your findings for the purpose of formulating their research. Okay, we call this the descendancy approach. Okay, and there are grey literature. Okay, so grey literature are those mostly you can look into the unpublished thesis which are available into different library or libraries of the different universities. You can look into the conference paper which may remain unpublished. Okay, so these things we call this literature we call the grey literature. Okay, so these things can be also used. Okay, but the reliability or authenticity of the sources of this grey literature must be checked up before you using those particular sources for your review of literature. Okay. So now these are the example of the ancestry approach and descendancy approach we are talking about. Okay. So like here if you go to research paper of mine, okay, like which is written by me and published into different journals. Okay, like if you go to the second paper, okay, that is cited by one particular person. Okay, if you click this particular cited by, you can find out who are the researcher who form your research by, or who are actually working on those particular area. Okay, then you can search on. Now this is the ancestry approach we are talking about. Okay, if you look into and published research, okay, again, okay, at the end of this particular section you will find out reference section. That means for my formulation of my particular scientific publication, who are the authors or who are the researcher, okay, I used, or who are the findings of which researcher I used, I acknowledge them into the reference section. So now if you look into those publication also, that can help you into the review of literature. So we will end with what are the shortcomings, okay, or what are the limitation, or what the research scholars or the researchers should carefully guard against, okay, when they are carrying out the review of literature. That is, nowadays especially after the proliferation of the ICT tools or the internet, okay, a number of sources are available for the literature, okay, and a number of journals, some of they may be reputed one, some of them may be they are not reliable one, okay, so they provide you with the information about a particular scientific research, okay, so the researchers should carefully guard against this low quality sources, okay. Also, it is possible that when you are dealing with a novel research area, you may not find out the research paper, or you may not find out scientific publication which are may be helpful to you. So that is also a possibility is there when you are dealing with this novel topic. Okay. Now most of the time when we are doing this reviewing of literature, we limited ourselves with only the presenting the facts which we find out from the other research of the other people, and sometimes directly copying the fact into for the purpose of your review. Okay, so it should not, or it should be carefully avoided. Okay, so the review of literature does not only mean the collection of the facts, it involved also the integration and synthesis, or by contrasting those facts. Okay, so that thing should be there. It should not be merely reporting of the facts. Okay. and sometimes also you it is a lengthy process, sometimes you report the unfocused content, that should be again carefully. And so the review of literature involves the critical analysis of the available information. So you should be very artistic about presenting those particular information. You should be very careful about this arranging the chapter or structuring the structure. And lastly, okay, sometimes and we use the sources, but we fail to acknowledge the sources. Okay, so that thing. So the poor referencing is again the problem of the review of literature, which is used mostly by the researcher in their research paper, in their academic research. So that should not be happened. Okay, researchers should keep into the mind those particular lacuna or limitation. So in today's class, we talk about the problem statement. Okay, what is problem? What is problem statement? What are the criteria for selecting a problem statement? We also talk about the review of literature. What are the component of review of literature? Okay, what should be the 5C of the review of literature, and the different approaches for reviewing of the literature, and lastly the shortcomings or lacuna or the points the researchers should keep into the mind when the reviewing the literature. Thank you.